Yo, what's going on, boys? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to the Steam 2 video. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a build for the GM this week. This week, we have Battlegrounds Moon with some interesting modifiers. The Hunger modifier is back, but this time with a different element, with Art Hunger. And also for Surges, we have Stasis, as well as Void. So today's build is designed for you to be able to use pretty much just go into LFG and always be able to get that clear. You're going to be able to deal with old champions and also take advantage of some of those modifiers so we can spam more abilities and even more importantly, spam a bunch of stasis supers. So we're going to have some crazy ability regen, so everything's always going to be getting slowed or frozen with our abilities, and it's going to be pretty nice. We're also going to be having a pretty easy time with the champions. It shouldn't be too bad. Now the two things that you're going to need for this build is going to be the Wish Ender as well as a class item with the Spirit of Galanor. As long as you have those two things, you're going to be able to make this build work. And if you guys enjoyed this GM builds, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on the video. It kind of helps the video out. So anyways, let's get into it. And first, let's start with our exotic weapon. So for our exotic weapon, we have the Wish Ender. This thing is just fantastic at dealing with barriers. And we actually have quite a lot of barriers here in this strike. So the Wish Ender was just kind of like our best choice. It is primary ammo, so we never have to worry about running out of ammo. And it also uses one-shots to barriers, and that is just fantastic. This is also a bow, so it has a lot of range. And believe it or not, a lot of places in the strike, especially at the beginning, we have lots of range to play with, so we can pretty much just stand on the back of the map and just kill things with our bow. It is not the fastest way, but it's definitely the safest. And if you want to use schedule completion, the Wish Ender is going to be fantastic. You can also get a little bit more aggressive with it. It pretty much one-shots any red bar ad that you run into. So it's also going to be pretty good with that as well. And since we're running a Stasis Super, and Stasis is the Surge, it also benefits from getting that 15% extra damage. So overall, this thing is going to be fantastic for killing smaller ads, for destroying champion shields, and also for just doing a ton of damage per shot. This thing is going to put out lots of damage. Now for the other weapons that we're pairing this up with, I recommend that you go with a grenade launcher for your energy slot. Something with auto loading, maybe some blinding nades, definitely blinding nades I would say, is going to make this so easy. There's a lot of rooms where there's tons of ads, and the blinding grenades just kind of makes those rooms so much easier. And also some of those enemies at the end that drop like those charges, just run at you. They can be a little dangerous, but by just shooting a blinding grenade launcher, they become super easy to deal with. And that's just something I love about the blinding grenade launchers. You can make like these very dangerous enemies that you would have to worry about just not really be like an actual threat, since when they're blinded they just kind of stand there and just let you shoot them. So blinding grenade launchers are just a cheat code for GMs, so I would definitely recommend one in the energy slot. And this thing is also going to apply the weaken effect, so not only are you going to be blinding everything, but you're also going to be weakening whatever you hit with the grenade launcher. Now for your heavy, I recommend that you go with an arc machine gun, and this is going to be both for ad clear and also a way to take advantage of arc hunger. The hunger buff is crazy when it comes to like regenerating your abilities, regenerating your super, so we definitely want to take advantage of it. I think the easiest way, and also the thing that kind of fits into our build the best, is going to be a machine gun. And it doesn't really have to be this one, it can be any arc machine gun. So the machine gun is going to help you deal with all the ads in the strike, which there's a lot of, and at the same time just charge up that arc hunger so we can spam supers and also spam abilities. If you want to use it for the charging of the arc hunger, then you could do it and very easily build it up. Once you build up that arc hunger meter, you get 20 seconds of that increased ability regen. So just keep in mind that after 20 seconds, you will have to do some more damage to the machine gun. Or if you're using the machine gun a lot to kill ads, then it won't matter. You always have that extra regen and you're always just going to be spamming abilities. Now for the super, we're going to be on the Silence and Scroll. It is still my favorite like super to run in GMs, and since it's Stasis weak, or Stasis Surge I should say, this thing just overall does more damage, and it's just going to be better this week. And with the Arc Hunger modifier plus the Spirit of Galanor, you can throw so many of these out there. It is crazy, whether you throw them at champions, at mini bosses, or just at big groups of ads, this thing is always going to be pretty good. And if you somehow find yourself in a situation where you don't have any abilities to stun unstoppables, because that's gonna be the main way that we stun them, then you can just throw a silence and squad them and just constantly stun them. Now for our melee and our grenade, we are again going with the stasis ones. They're the things that are gonna help us stun those unstoppables by freezing them. And since the Stasis Surge, the Withering Blaze are also going to be hitting for more. That doesn't really matter with the Dust Field, but the Dust Field is always good, just at slowing and freezing. It is going to be fantastic. Now for our aspects, we're going to have Winter Shroud and also Stylist Executioner. Both of these are going to be to just ensure that we're safe, especially in those more close range areas. Stylist Executioner is going to make us go invisible whenever we defeat something that has a debuff on them. So whenever something is slowed, we're essentially going to go invisible. And since we're going to be spamming our abilities, we're going to be able to proc this quite a lot. So we're always going to have a bit of safety with Stylist Executioner, as it's going to make going for revives just a little bit easier, or just staying alive. Now Winter Shroud is what you want to use when something gets just a little bit too close. Maybe an enemy's running at you or something like that. You can quickly dodge to get out of the way, and also slow them, which is again going to proc the invisibility once you kill them, and make you go to a better, like, safer spot. Basically get away from the enemies. You could also use Threat Spectre. I think both of those can actually work in this spot, but I kinda ended up liking Winter Shroud a little more, just because of the synergy it's got with Stylist Executioner. Now moving on to the Fragments, the first one we're gonna have is gonna be the Faceted Command. Whenever we freeze or suppress a target, it's gonna reload our equipped weapons, which is gonna be pretty good since we're gonna be freezing all the time. And whenever we defeat some frozen targets, we're gonna make stasis shards. And that's pretty good since it works pretty well with some of the seasonal artifacts that we have. After that, we're gonna have the Faceted Dawn. Whenever we hit something with our power melee, it's gonna give us some radiant. And this just kinda gives our weapons a little bit extra damage. Whether it's our bow, whether it's our machine gun, we're just gonna be doing extra damage. And since we're gonna be regenning our abilities quite a lot, we're always gonna be able to proc this pretty regularly. And since we're gonna be spamming our abilities, especially our melee, we're always gonna have an easy way to get radiant. And this will also give our machine gun anti-barrier. So you wanna break anti-barriers with your machine gun. With the Faceted Dawn, you will be able to. After that, we're gonna have the Faceted Ruin, and this is gonna give our stasis shatters just a little bit more damage. So whenever we freeze something and they break out or we shatter them, they just gotta do some more damage. After that, we're gonna have the Faceted Solitude. Whenever we land some rapid precision hits, it emits a Severing Blast. And this is gonna be pretty good against some of the champions who basically just lower their damage, as well as go invisible whenever we kill them, and they also make a tangle. So this is gonna be doing a lot of things. It gives us ad clear with the tangle. It gives us some survivability by making this go invisible after we kill the target that we severed. And it's also gonna be a little bit safer to fight them since they're gonna be doing some less damage, 40% less damage actually. So it is quite a big damage reduction. So this is definitely something that's good to put on champions, or maybe use some of the bigger enemies. Even the boss can be affected by this, just kind of making all those dangerous enemies much less dangerous than they are. And the last fragment that we're going to have is going to be the Faceted Protection. Whenever we're surrounded, we gain some damage resistance, 15 at base, and whenever we're transcendent, 25. Now, I consider actually cutting Faceted Protection, just because a lot of times we are going to be away from the enemies, just kind of picking them off with the bow. But once we get inside, in that middle room in the strike, and also towards the boss fight, things get close enough where Faceted Protection is actually useful. So I decided to keep it, but if you think that you don't need it, then I wouldn't be so against cutting Faceted Protection. But if you want to just be as safe as you can be, I definitely recommend keeping it on. You can instead run some Faceted Purpose, which is going to give you some frost armor and damage resistance, used whenever you pick up orbs. So if you don't want Faceted Protection, you can easily change it to this. Now for the fragments, we pretty much just have the stasis fragments as well as the grenade launcher ones, and I'm sure you guys kind of have seen these. Brain Freeze, so we can slow even more targets. Hail the Storm, so we can get some more shadow damage whenever we boost it. The Debilitating Wave, Concussive Reload, Surf Cold, Total Carnage, Crystalline Converter, so we can make some extra crystals with our melee. And then just things like Killing Breeze, Feel the Revenant, just pretty normal mods. We're not really doing anything special here. We really are just sticking to the safe mods. The most impactful ones I definitely think are going to be Hail the Storm, Concussive Reload, and also Brain Freeze. Those are the ones that you're pretty much going to notice the most. Now lastly, let's take a look at the mods that we're in on this build. First of all, for the helmet, we have Arc Siphon for our machine gun, Kinetic Siphon for our bow, and Radiant Light so we can give our teammates some armor charge whenever we super. Since we're going to be supering a lot, this is really going to help our teammates. Now for the gauntlets, we're going to have Kinetic Loader, Impact Induction, and Momentum Transfer so we can get our abilities back faster, and also reload our bow just faster. The reload speed on the bows really matters, and having a bit of extra reload on it is definitely going to make a difference. Now for the chest piece, I recommend to go with 1 arc resistance. If we are constantly just doing arc damage, we shouldn't be worried about taking too much more arc damage, so just 1 resistance will be fine. But there is a lot of annoying grenades that are void, so I would say either double void resistance, or if you can afford it, a concussive dampener. But this is what I was running, double void plus arc, and it worked out pretty well. For the boots, we have Recuperation, Absolution, or Restoration, and lastly for the class item, we have Powerful Attraction, Reaper, and Bomber. And for the class item, like we mentioned before, we do have the Spirit of Galanor. The second perk could be pretty much anything. As long as we have the Spirit of Galanor, it should be pretty great. The Spirit of Galanor plus Silence the Skull just goes so well together. I just love it. I just love it. I'll take any chance to actually use Galanor with the Stasis Super. It is just so good. The amount of super energy you get is just ridiculous. It pretty much guarantees that you always get 50% super energy. With the Silence of Skull, it's just amazing. And plus, like the Arc Surge or the Arc Hunger, it really makes just spamming your super just so easy that it's crazy not to want to use it. Especially just how powerful the supers and the abilities are in this game. We definitely want to take just full advantage of it, and that's pretty much what this build does. But with that, it's actually going to be the end of mods, and also the end of the build. Now you guys know exactly what's on this build, so now let's talk about the gameplay loop, as well as some tips that I have for you guys for the Grandmaster. Now the main thing that you want to keep in mind when playing with this build is the Arc Hunger. You want to utilize it as much as you can, so whenever you see that you don't have the buff again, make sure you put out your LMG and just damage some things so you can get it back. It's gonna make spamming any ability just so much better, and also spamming the super, so it's a big part of the build. The build is mostly just about spamming those abilities, so you definitely want that buff up most of the time. At times you won't be able to activate it right away, because you might be shooting like a champion or something like that with your bow, but try to activate it just as soon as you see that you don't have the buff anymore. Besides that, try to use your range to your advantage. In the middle room of the strike, that's not really a possibility, so that's where I use the machine gun the most. But in the boss room and also at the beginning of the strike, in that very like open section, the Wish Ender just goes crazy, and you can pretty much stay so far away that you don't really run the risk of dying to really anything. You spam your abilities from far away, spam your Wish Ender, maybe through your super like groups of enemies, but you're gonna be very safe. Same with the boss fight, you kind of want to stay towards like the beginning of the room, or like where you come from. If you stay around there, around this area that I'm showing you in the video right now, you should be pretty safe. All the enemies are going to spawn pretty close to each other, so if you see the enemies are spawning, make sure you throw your abilities or throw your super at them, and then you can deal with them very quickly. You want to deal with them as soon as they spawn, preferably, just because it's going to be so much easier to deal with them that way, before they like start spreading around, and before they start doing the ability where they go immune on the ground and you just can't touch them. So make sure that you keep that in mind, and if one of the enemies rushes you, remember you have your blinding grenade launcher, so you're able to like just blind them, and if you have enough ammo, you can just keep blind them over and over again, and it'll keep resetting the blind. So don't be afraid if a chieftain like rushes you, you can easily just blind them and deal with them with the grenade launcher. Like always, there's gonna be a dim link in the comments below and also in the description if you guys want to give this build a try. And if you guys do end up giving it a try, make sure you guys come back here and tell me just what you thought about it. I've been seeing that a lot of you guys have been enjoying these builds, so I thank you all for checking them out, and hopefully I will continue to provide some good builds for you guys so you can get this thing done as easily as possible. Because that's pretty much like the main point of the series, why I make these builds every week, just so you guys can have something easily that you can take in there and get your loot or your title. But anyways, thank you all for stopping by, thank you all for watching today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.